Yo, hey, it's Eddie Ortega. All right, I guess the day has finally come that I have to talk about the AI art thing in my admittedly very tiny channel anyway. The choo choo AI train is going on again, and I feel like it is not authentic of me to not talk about it because I feel like there's enough noise out there in the world. There's enough rage. And look, I'm pretty outraged. I'm pretty angry at the idea that people don't understand the point of view of artists when they're talking about this. That said, I also don't think that speaking from my anger and my rage moves the ball forward for anybody. So, what I'm saying is I'm going to try to speak to my friends out there who may not really understand what is so frustrating and so hurtful about the idea of AI art being a thing that anybody engages with on any capacity. And yes, even that sort of seemingly innocent, it's just a fun little image thing that allows me to look like a Ghibli character, why that can be so hurtful. So, anyway, enough preface. Let's just get into it. There's enough said about the economic implications of this, the concerns around are artists' jobs going to go away? Our livelihoods at stake, which they just are. There's enough being said about that. I already have enough peers in the games industry who are having a harder and harder time finding jobs because studios are downsizing. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about that. I think when it comes to AI art, one thing that I don't hear being said out there that I think would be useful to bring to light is asking the question of whose story is it when you consume art? Whose story is it when you create art? And whose story is it when you generate art with AI? Okay? I think in my personal experience, my personal belief about art, artists spend a very long time honing their craft, right? Just like anybody else. If you are a doctor, you are a professor, a teacher, you are an architect, whatever, you're a programmer even. You spend a lot of time honing your craft. Artists are no different. We do the same thing. We dedicate our lives, we train to be able to create cool images or cool videos or cool comics or games or whatever it is. But the thing that is different about the craft of art is that the output, the thing that is created, is mistaken for the art. The image itself is not the art. The painting is not the art. The Ghibli film, it is not the art. The art is the process of a person taking in the world, connecting with something about it that they find beautiful or horrifying, truthful. The process of art, in my opinion, is not, I have captured it and I have reproduced it. In the same way that any great photographer worth their salt would tell you that photography isn't the print that you're holding. It's the point of view, is the perspective and the entire process of taking in life, filtering it through oneself, and producing something to share that experience, to sort of symbolize that experience, if you will, in what you would call an artifact, like an artifact. So when you have a photograph, when you hold a painting, right? The first story that we need to care about when we consume art is the story of the person who's created it, right? Now, you may not have that experience. Artists talk about this all the time. Like when you write a play or when you write a novel, when you're creating something that's coming from your soul or from your heart, you're doing something that is a sort of gifting to the world. You are synthesizing your experiences, and artists will say to each other, once you release this into the world, you're also giving it to the world. You're letting it become somebody else's story as well. And that's exactly what makes art so powerful, right? That's my belief. Now, if we wanted to consider the story of Miyazaki as an artist, if you've read his biography, you would recognize that the visual style, this stuff that has a really cool, specific vibe, specific look, right? That we all have spent money on, have spent energy on, have talked about, right? These things. He has dedicated his life to making these films, oftentimes with great suffering. And he talks about that all the time because he has something to share. Now, when you decide that taking that and divorcing it from that experience is important to you, the impact culturally is that we reduce another person's story and synthesis and this artistic process to something that can be owned. When an artist decides that they're going to share this story that they've created with somebody else, they're gifting this thing to the world so that we can all rejoice in this thing. And when you finally decide that you want to just be able to replicate that at will without the artist as part of the process, you're not just insulting the artist, but you're also completely devaluing all of the experiences and all of the effort that it took to generate that style in the first place. Now, AI is trained on the images of those same artists. You could not recreate the Ghibli art style through generative AI if you didn't first consume all of that art. So what you're saying is, it is okay for me to consume you for my purposes and for my enjoyment. It's a real tragedy. It's like somebody dedicating their entire life to loving you, to giving to you, to nurturing you with their greatest gifts. And for you to decide at the end of the day, yeah, you know what? I want all of the goodness of what I receive from you, but I don't want you. You know what I mean? It's like, I want all of the benefits of having a lover. I want all of the benefits of having a great teacher or a great parent or a great sibling or a great friend, okay? But I don't want to have to take care of them. That's what's happening. What's happening is artists are saying, we've dedicated ourselves to giving to the world through this means. And all we want is to be cared for in return, is to be respected in return, because it's hurting us. It's hurting me. It's hurting my heroes, right? It's hurting our livelihoods. And you might make the argument, Miyazaki's fine. He's not going to be harmed, financially. But I want you to consider this. No artist is starting from the point of view of monetary remuneration first. Specifically artists who really care to make something that has a kind of cultural impact, like Miyazaki, whose films are all about a message of the relationship between humans and machine. The first purpose of creating that art isn't the money, it's what it means, what impact it has upon culture to do that, right? So when you decide that it's not important to honor those needs or honor that message and that legacy, you're saying, I don't need you anymore. I just want the sort of fruits of your labor for my consumption. Now, that cultural impact has real social, political, economic repercussions, but it starts with that kernel. Whose story is it? In that moment, it's just your story. It's me, what I want to create with this generative machine, and that I want to share it with my friends. That's about yourself, and that's great. But when you then transgress, when you then take it a step further and you say, well, I want to do that, but I want to do so by creating it in the style of somebody else's, that can feel like a transgression. And that is the entirety of the source of the point. We create this stuff through sweat and tears, and, we mine away our hours, right? To develop an identifiable style in the first place. And to have that be just so easily taken away, so easily misused, there's a real harm in that. So, whose story is it when you create art? I've explained how I believe that the first story that happens when art is generated is the story of an individual connecting with the whole of life. Now, when we generate AI art, not we, when you do, okay? When you create a generated image, there is another story that it's already baked into this process that you cannot remove. And it is the story of a group of corporations, businessmen, technologists, okay, data scientists, and all these other activities that are happening, coming together to create these models and then outright ignoring the requests of artists. Culturally speaking, you cannot divorce the two from each other. So when you as an artist, as an AI artist, create an AI generated image, the story that is built in that we cannot remove from that process is the story of the machine that's in between you and that created image. In the same way that if I go out and I make a painting, there's also the story of how the paint was made and how the brush was made and how the leaves of the trees were, flapping on that particular day and etc., right? And so when we as consumers engage with this stuff, we're also condoning that story. You can't separate the two, and to think that it's that the image is the output and the output is the art misses the point a little bit. I don't know if this makes any sense. I will listen back to it and see if it is postable on the internet. But I felt that I really wanted to talk about it from an angle that I feel maybe has not been spoken about. This is for you if you maybe don't understand the issue of AI art. Maybe you're not a working artist. Maybe you're a technologist and you're a proponent of AI. I know many of you. I have worked in the games industry for the last decade. I am an artist who is also entangled with the world of technology, and every artist struggles with this. This isn't about me not understanding how the models work. This isn't about me not understanding what the companies are trying to do with it. I'm well informed and well educated on all those matters. But this is just me speaking just as an artist, as a fellow artist, creator, as a person who, from the moment I was born, I've been holding a pencil, trying to draw, becoming mystified by people who dedicate their lives to doing this stuff. And it's really sad. It's really sad to see. And I'm not trying to shame anyone. I'm not trying to reprimand anyone. I'm hoping that by speaking about it from this honest point of view, it can reach somebody who needs to hear it. As a fun little side note, who is benefiting from you using these services? Okay? When you do. Anyway, I'm entering the realm of starting to repeat myself, so I think I have expressed what I needed to express. And again, I'm not even accounting for the fact that Miyazaki famously despises AI and that he's dedicated his entire life works to talking about the poor relationship between art and technology. I can only imagine that he's glad that this is happening towards the end of his life and not the beginning. For the rest of us, we are still here and we're still trying to create things. And we're still trying to be cared for in the process as well. So don't forget about that next time you interact with Gen AI. Okay, that's all I've got. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments if this reaches anybody at all. I mean, it's a really small channel, but I'm hoping to spark some insightful, caring, mutually compassionate conversations about this topic because there's enough rage out there and I don't think we're making progress that way. Okay. Ciao.